Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss The New Mutants, starring Anya Taylor-Joy, Macy Williams, Charlie Heaton, Henry Zaga, Blue Hunt, and Alice Braga, and directed by Josh Boone. Now, before I get into this review, I must say I had to watch this twice in theaters with the mask on. And what do I think of the movie? Well, we'll get there. Okay. But I must say, welcome back to movie theaters briefly or barely. It depends on what you think. So let's just get it straight into the movie, shall we? Danielle Moonstar, played by Blue Hunt, wakes up and is under attack by something like a storm or something like that. It wasn't clear to me. And her father dies, and she gets knocked out. And next thing you know, she wakes up in a mental hospital for mutants, ran by Dr. Reyes, played by Alice Braga, as she introduces herself to Danny, let's call her because the movie does, and explains what happened to her father. And as an opening sequence, it felt weird that she got to the hospital under the first 5 minutes of the movie. And we only get one scene in the outside world, which is a big mistake, and that was the opening scene. They should have used it as a flashback because that would have been a better choice, in my opinion. We go to therapy and meet Roberto da Costa, played by Henry Zaga, Sam Guthrie, played by Charlie Heaton, Ilyana Rasputin, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, which is Colossus' sister, if you can believe it, and Rain Sinclair, played by Macy Williams. And out of any of the characters, the only likable character, in my opinion, is Rain, because she seems more relatable than the other characters whom I did not like in this movie, because Ilyana comes off as a bitch to me. Sam annoyed the hell out of me, and I don't get to know Roberto that well. Dr. Reyes comes off like a psycho from the very beginning, and despite Danny as the protagonist, I really don't care about her in any way whatsoever. And Rain comes off more relatable in my eyes, as she is called a witch because she turns into some kind of dog, and which I think is CGI. I think the CGI looked really bad, and the acting is bad as well. Ilyana's accent was hard enough to hear as it was really bad, and it was, oh my god, it was horrendous. Danny almost commits suicide until Rain shows her around and is being really nice to Danny, and they spend a lot of time together throughout the movie, and we see Sam practicing his powers from what I get the impression of. And for half the movie, I forget we're in an X-Men movie, there were two things that reminded me. One was the use of the powers, and two, they brought up the X-Men twice in the movie. But to be honest, it felt like the movie it felt like the movie A Cure for Wellness, which I didn't really like that movie, but it almost felt like a retelling of that movie. Sam has a vision of his father and how he died while in a cave working in. I'm kind of tired of the psychological story of cures and being well. It's been done to death now, just like demonic movies, I feel like have been done to death before too. Let's keep going. Ilyana antagonizes Danny until Dr. Reyes comes in and takes both of them to the cells of trouble, and Ilyana dreams of the creatures she saw when she was a little girl with the smiley faces masks, and Danny's vision leads Dr. Reyes to something bloody and takes some blood to her boss, which is Essex Corporations, which was introduced at the after credits scene in X-Men Apocalypse, and was the bad guys creating an army full of young mutants in Logan, which made the connections interesting, to be honest. The New Mutants, let's call them, sneak off to a treehouse and play lie detector, and Ilyana asks the origins of Danny, and that's when they could use a flashback at the beginning scene. Then she tells us of a spirit of the demon bear, and Dr. Reyes catches them on camera and discusses it the next day, and Sam is pissed. Dr. Reyes doesn't listen to him, and they have a party and talk about a superior Dr. Reyes keeps talking about in this movie. And Danny and Rain sneak out of the cemetery and kiss while Ileana, who's not in this scene but acts like it, and Roberto go in the pool, and he catches her in it, and they kiss with no chemistry whatsoever. At least Danny and Rain had better chemistry. They did than they did. Then Roberto gets on fire, and Dr. Reyes pushes them in the water and catches everyone. And as it turns out, Roberto was in the pool with a demon. And it took my second viewing to realize that while Ileana was in her room, the whole time these scenes are very stupid. Dr. Reyes and asks Danny a series of questions about what she remembers about before getting to the hospital, and she sees the footage we saw in Logan, while Rain has the vision of the priest who marked her with the brand that just says the letter W, which was weird, as she gets the mark of the letter M, and Ileana gets the impression Danny will kill them all, which doesn't make any sense because she was with Dr. Reyes as her vision of a place which I'm led to believe is hell, but it's not really hell, it's something else. And then Ileana now treats Danny with respect after giving her the puppet back. Didn't make sense either. Dr. Reyes is told by Essex Corporations to kill Danny, and Rain suddenly finds out Dr. Reyes is going to kill Danny as Ileana recognizes the song in the background, and Ileana and Sam all of a sudden get attacked by the smiley-faced monster and takes off the mask, and now there's a collection of them. Oh boy, the second half isn't making much sense to me. Rain attacks Dr. Reyes to save Danny's life as Ileana tries to get a weapon to kill the creatures, and Roberto tries to get out, and Ileana kills the creatures, and she with Rain, Sam, Roberto, and Danny goes after Dr. Reyes and finds her, and she shields them, and suddenly a giant demon bear kills Dr. Reyes and attacks the new mutants, and Danny was knocked out for the longest time while they fight the demon bear, and sees her father in her dreams, and the new mutants are almost killed, and Danny does wake up with the demon bear still attacking, and calms it down and says, "I'm in charge," and that's how they defeat the giant demon bear? Oh boy, this is so bad. Then they test to see if there's a shield and no shield, and they go to the next town, which is 20 miles away, or was Dr. Reyes lying? The climax made no sense, as it became a headache with the worst CGI I ever looked at. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.1 out of 10. The CGI was bad, and so was the acting, the plot, and the writing. It's not as big of a headache as Dark Phoenix was. The first half was bad, but I could still go with it, but the second act just made it into a bunch of nonsense. So whatever you do, like Dark Phoenix, this is another one to skip because it jumped the shark on the entire X-Men series, and this is the last of them until Marvel Studios tries to reintroduce them to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and until then,